So I've been meaning to make a video about Remix. It's been on my radar for a long time. I just haven't really gotten around to playing with it. And what I'm going to do in this video is show you my first thoughts on using Remix, right? I've never used this before. So let's just go ahead and get started and see how much different it is than using Next.js. All right, so checking out the quick started guide, there's a bunch of text which you could potentially read, but I'm not going to because I'm going to skip right down to the code. Let's just go ahead and grab this. All right, I'll just grab this blog tutorial, whatever. Let's go over here. Let's go to my workspace. Let's run this. All right, let's do TypeScript. Do you want to run npm install? Yes. Nice, it comes with Prisma. I thought I was gonna have to set Prisma up to get this going, but that's good. Let's go to the blog tutorial. Let's go ahead and open this up and let's npm run dev. Let's see if this works. Nice. We have a little thing going over here. There's a sign in page. So now that the project's set up, let me kind of show you a trick that I like to do for learning new things, right? So we got a project that's already set up, has a lot of files. If you're a beginner, you might be overwhelmed. What I like doing is just poking around with various things. Like I won't even read through this tutorial, right? We could, and I already know some things about it from like various things I've watched in the past. But overall, like I'm just gonna go ahead and see like where this stuff is all hooked together and how this works. So let's look at the Prisma schema. It's always good to understand your data models of the application before you just start diving in. So we have a note. What is a note used for? We have a user, we have a password. I'm guessing you can just type in a username and password and click create account. View your notes. So click the README file instructions. Okay, view notes. This goes to a little dashboard. No notes selected. Select the note on the left. Testing hello. Okay, let's do it again. All right. Can you delete notes? Awesome. So far it makes sense. Now let's look at the path up here, right? This is another good way to understand applications. You're on this certain page, this route, and you need to figure out where in the code is this being implemented, right? So let's go to app. I'm just going to assume app directory is where the stuff is set up. And there's a routes folder. That sounds pretty good. All right, and then we are on notes. So there's a couple of things in notes that might be a little bit confusing. We have notes index. I'm guessing that's like, if you go here, which doesn't have anything selected. And then we have notes of ID, which is, I'm guessing, what shows when you go here. Okay, so it's like, instead of having nested folders, I do believe you just have nested files. I'd have to go look at the docs to figure that out. So let's look at how this is working. When this page loads, so let's take a peek at how this is working. From what I understand with Remix, you have loaders. So it's kind of similar to like get server-side props, except for you can have this for every nested layout. And that'll load the data that's scoped to the individual layout that you're looking at. So this page right here, this little section right here has its own loader, which is probably just going to fetch the note data and display that. Okay. The request user ID, let's figure out what that does. Request user ID, get user ID, request. So somehow that looks at the request being made. It looks at your session. It gets a cookie. So after you register or log in, it looks like it sets a cookie on the header. So again, I'm just playing around with the code. So let's look at the cookies. So down here, you can go to cookies, click on this. I have a bunch of random cookies in here. I think these are left over from other apps. Let me just go ahead and clear that out so that we're not distracted by that. Let's just go ahead and go to login. All right, so we have session. This is like the individual cookie. Okay, and right here we have a value. This is probably just some random like ID or something. It kind of has like a JWT format to it. Let me figure out how this is decoded. So we get the session, and then user session key, user ID. I'm not really sure how this is working. Let's just go ahead and print that out and see what happens. Okay, so I'm guessing this thing that's stored here, this is like some built-in session that's provided with Remix. Yeah, it's just base64. Look here, it has a user ID in here. Has some other stuff, so I don't know if this is truly base64 or something else. All right, so I think it'd be cool to check out the registration/login page to figure out how the session stuff is set, because it makes sense how we're getting it. We look at the request, get the cookie, get the session. But let's go to Command P and type in like sign in or login, and let's figure that out. So, all right, so login route, we have, where's email address? Here we go. We have a div with an email address and an input. Okay, and down here we have a password. Got some more validation errors. So like when you type in a short password, that's probably what's causing that to happen. I want to understand how that's happening. So when we submit this form, I'm guessing there's a form somewhere. Here it is. And you have to use a remix router form. And when you post, that is going to automatically hit an action, right? So in Remix, you can export actions on your individual components. And when you submit a form, it's going to invoke this action. Now, if you have multiple forms on a page, I believe you pass in like, you'd have to pass in a key on your form data so that you can actually like do a switch statement inside your action. I have to go read up on that. I think I watched a video a while back about that. But this is where it's getting the form data. And then if the email's invalid, we return JSON that has some errors in it. If the password is too short, which is down here, we return JSON which has some errors in it. So I'm trying to figure out, when you return JSON, how does that actually get propagated? Action data, use action data. Oh, okay. I guess there's just a hook so that when you submit, this effect fires off, I'm guessing. Well, this is just for focusing on stuff. I think this will work perfectly fine without this. This is just for auto-focusing. Let's just go ahead and type in like a bogus password. Notice that it still works, but it doesn't autofocus like the failing thing. So I think there's an effect in here just to kind of achieve that. Okay, now I'm click it, it focuses. Cool. But yeah, this is how you get that data that comes back from the action when it's done running. And then if everything's good, it looks like we verify the login, which does a Prisma call to find the user where the email is set up here. That looks fine. We bcrypt a password. Oh, and then we're doing something like bcrypt comparing with the authentication. Yeah, all that makes sense. And then we create a session. This is what I was originally looking for. We kind of just did a huge roundabout way to create the session, where it looks like you pass in a user ID, you pass in the request, I'm guessing so it can set a cookie. And is this a built-in method or is this something we have? This is a method that's provided with the blog setup, which basically, which is what we saw when we decoded that base64 token. We set a cookie and then we redirect. Okay. Cool. I mean, yeah, all that makes sense. So for those watching this video, I don't know what you guys probably expected from me trying out Remix. I'm guessing you guys wanted to watch me type up code. But honestly, when you get more experienced, you don't have to write code to understand code. You can just read through code and how a project is set up, and it'll just slowly click as you kind of read through stuff. All right, so that's all clicking together. That seems like it makes sense. We have the ability to delete a note. So notice here, let's find where delete note. This is a form that's wrapping a button. When you submit this, it calls post to this action. This action gets the user ID from the request. I wonder if this one throws an exception if you try to like do this. There is not a user ID. Redirect the user to a login page. Okay, so this is like a guard on the API endpoint to make sure that you're logged in. One thing I really like about Remix is that the actions aren't experimental. Like this is like legit built into the framework and it's been here for a while. So it doesn't feel like you're using some like hacky thing. It's there, it's been provided for a long time. And I think it just uses like the HTML5 actions that are under the hood. So now we delete the note, okay, which just does a Prisma delete mini. Okay, that makes sense. I'm not sure what this invariant is. Invariant. Note ID not found. I might have to go Google that because that does not make sense to me. Invariant. Yeah, let's just go to Remix and type in invariant because that TypeScript is still mad because someone can call our API with non-string values. So let's add some invariants to make it happy. Okay, so I'm guessing it's just a way to like force things to be typed better. Because I'm guessing params before this point doesn't really have anything. One thing that I say is not as good as Next.js's actions is that this is not type saved. So for example, in Next.js's actions, you can actually specify real parameters in here, okay? And you can call them from your front end code, right? So I could like type this to take in numbers, strings, objects, whatever. And in my front end, I just invoke it. But over here, this is just doing a form post. And I'm not seeing where the TypeScript is like specifying that, hey, the params object that's coming in, it's only ever going to have a user ID or a node ID. I'm also not sure where params node ID is getting set, because if you look down here in this form, there's no like data attached to the form. I don't see any hidden data. Like, so how do we know that this thing has a node ID on it? That's kind of confusing. Let's just go ahead and print out console.log params. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna click delete. And somehow it knows that the node ID, oh, I'm guessing this is a path parameter. That's what params is. Okay, that's probably what's going on. Okay, so there might be a way to like set up type safety between your forms. All right, so we delete the note and then we redirect to notes. Okay. When you redirect, does it like automatically select the new note for you? Go ahead and do that. I'm gonna click this one and it just goes no note is selected. Okay. I'm curious where are these things coming from? So if I search for like new note, I'll say plus new note. Where is that defined? It's defined over here. And is this like a nested layout type of thing? Let's look down here. Okay, there's an outlet. So I think this is how they do nested layouts. So on the left, we have all of our notes that are rendered out. And I'm guessing after we delete a note, because we redirect to /notes, this thing fires off again. In fact, let's just go ahead and verify this. I'm going to print out data. I'm going to go here. I'm going to start fresh. Let's just delete that. I'm going to click delete and notice that it actually did not print out data. I wonder if it like bypasses this and just calls the loader or something. I'm not really sure. Let's just go here. Click delete, testing. Yeah, so I'm not sure how that works, but behind the scenes, I guess Remix only invokes the loader. Oh, you know what? I was thinking about this being like a Next.js server action. I don't think this is a server action. I think this will only run in the client, right? Okay, so that's something I'm learning now right now. So this again, I think this only runs in the client. And then when you redirect back to this page, the loader fires, you get the new data, and then somehow your client, I'm guessing just behind the scenes, React is going to have an effect that's going to run, which is going to update this state, and this gets re-rendered over here. Okay, that makes sense. Overall, I mean, I think this is pretty intuitive. I think I want to try add like 1 or 2 features to this to see like how far I can take this. So like if I just type in a note, what if we had the ability to edit the note? Maybe that would be pretty cool. If I can figure that out, then I feel like I know the framework a little bit better. Let's go to the notes here. Okay, so when you click on a note, it takes you to this page. What if there's a way to actually edit this input, like the title? All right, so let's go and figure that out. This is all live. Again, I haven't used Remix before. I just watched a couple tutorial videos a while back. But we have this note detail page. And somewhere here is the note title. Let's just see if we can do like a is editing title and set is editing title equals use state. Set that to false. And what I'm going to do is when you click on this thing, so on click, we're going to go ahead and just say this is going to be true. And let's just make sure this is working. So let's just go ahead and do ternary here like that. And then if we are editing, we're going to show, we probably need to show a form. Let's just follow this approach where we have like a form and an input. And then we shall make an input here. I'll make a button as well called save. And on the input, let us basically just say, I think we just give it a name and we can say like title. So let's see if I'm understanding this correctly. You know, let's also do a cancel. I'll say cancel. I think this will just be a button. And then we'll say if you click cancel, we are going to go ahead and set this to false. Let's see if this works. Click this. We got a cancel button. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to call this gray. Good enough. Now the value of the input needs to be defaulted to something. So here I'll say value is equal to, and then we can say data.note.title. Awesome. Have an exception throwing down here. What is this? Warning, you must provide a value prop for form field without an onChange handler. Okay, yeah, we don't have an onChange handler. So let's say onChange. We'll say E, and then we will go ahead and say set. You know, maybe I shouldn't be using value here. Maybe I should be using like initial value. Is there like an initial value, default value? There's probably some remix convention to how I should be doing this. But I think the way remix works is like they expect you to write like just plain HTML as often as possible so that it will still work when you turn JavaScript off in your browser. So if I were to go here, click edit and type in like this, I think it'll work until you like hide the component. But I guess that's a good, I think that's good. So now if I click save, I want to try to like save this to the database. I'm not sure how to do this. So if I click submit, I do believe that's going to call this post up here. I'm sorry, it's going to call this action, but I don't know how to make it call a different action. So now we are going to go to the documentation. Let's go to actions. And is there like an ID? Okay, so this is how you can make an action go to a different endpoint or route. I don't want to do that though. I just want to have like multiple actions on a page, multiple forms. Okay, let's check the multiple forms. Skip, skip, skip. Let's just go forward. So Ryan's suggestion is you add a button, but you put a name on the value on the button. So like if I were to go here, I guess a name is underscore action. The value is going to be update title, something like that. And then you do the same thing down here, another button on delete. All right. And then let's go forward and skip stuff. Okay, he gets action from the object that was passed in. So over here, we should get request form data. Okay, let's do const form data equals, did he do an await? Await request.form data. Is that really a promise? Do we have to wait on it? Yeah. And then I'm gonna move this up. I want to say if form data object.from entry. I'll say get, and I'll say underscore action. If it's equal to delete, we'll do this. Otherwise, we know it's probably going to be edit. Let me go ahead and just do this. I'll say const action is equal to form data get action. Yeah, I'm gonna maybe try doing this. I'm going to do delete is delete, and then I'll say update is update title. Something like this. I might just be overcomplicating this, but I just want to like make sure that I'm kind of writing some clean code. So I'm going to go ahead and put the value as that. This one will be delete. And then I could kind of just do, and then I can just do this, right? So it's a little bit cleaner. I'm kind of wondering if there's a different way to do this, but hey, whatever. All right, so hopefully we should get back, we should hit this, and I should be able to check the new title, which I believe was, oh, I just called it title because of this name right here. So I'll say title, and I think technically I could probably call Prisma directly in here, but let's just go ahead and check this out real quick. How does this thing create a new note? Create note. Okay, yeah, so let's just go here, and I will grab this, and I'll say update note. And then we're going to say update mini, where the note ID and the user ID matches this, and I'll say data is equal to note. And then we could pass a note here, and then we could say that this is also going to be, what is this? I'll say note as a note. Seems good. Maybe. So yeah, let's just go ahead and say await update note. We need to pass in the node ID, which comes from params node ID. That's not typed. I wish there's a way to type that. And again, there might be. I haven't gone through all the docs. I'm just playing with this for the first time. So if you know of a way to like have this thing be typed so that I don't have to like guess at stuff, that would be pretty cool. Maybe you just go over here and you add something. I don't know. Let's pull in update note and let us go ahead and pass in, I think we need the user ID and then we need the new note. So I'm just going to go ahead and say title here. Expected 1 argument and got 3. Oh, this is supposed to be an object. Okay, so let's just go ahead and wrap this like that. Why is this complaining? Null is not assignable as string. Do I just default it? Form data entry value. I don't know. I don't know why this isn't working. I don't know if that's proper. Probably not proper TypeScript, but I think this is complaining because I said that the note that we pass in like we need a full note, so I need to do a partial here, I believe. And that should make that file happy, but I don't know if that's how you do update on individual things. I think this might work. I don't know. Let's try this out. So we should update the note and then we should redirect. Well, we want to reload. I think we want to reload the page or something. Let's just try this. I'm going to go over here, refresh the page. I'll say exclamation mark, click save. And it crashed. An unexpected error occurred. You define an action for the routes note ID, but didn't return anything from your action. Please return a value or null. Okay, let's try returning null. See what happens. Okay, we want to make this thing go back to the normal view when you're done. So it looks like it does update. Looks like when you do the form post, the entire page refreshes, which is good. I think maybe what we could do is use an effect. I don't know if this is the way to do it, but this is the first thing I would think of. And when that data comes over, if the title changes, we'll say set editing title back to false. Let's try that. I'm gonna go ahead and change this a little bit, save it. Perfect. But now we have the issue that when you save it and the title doesn't change, it doesn't close. So maybe I should just listen to note. Okay, that seems like it fixed it. So far I have just small little complaints, and that's probably because I don't understand this. My first complaint would be having all your like switch statements inside the action feels kind of messy. I wish there was a way to basically tell Remix that depending on the name, like if you could add like an actual name here, and then that would call a different action, that would be much cleaner in my opinion. Or maybe I could find a third-party library that allows you to basically say export const action is equal to create multi-form page action. I know it's verbose. And then you could basically say delete, and then you could run some code, or you could basically say update, and you can run some code. Now this might exist. I don't know. Like I'm saying, I'm just like going off the top of my head, giving you a fresh perspective of this framework. I think that would be a little bit cleaner than having like this weird if statement or switch statement inside your action. And then maybe even have like a middleware. So like before, and then you could actually run some of this like setup code over here. Yeah, like requiring the user ID. Something like that. I don't know. That's like the first thing that comes to my head. Or, I mean, you could also just like have that be middleware down here, which is a function that does that type of stuff. Because both of these need to make sure that the user is logged in, and we need to do the invariant, but it's like, I don't know. But I guess the thing is that you could easily just build a library that does this. I could go and build a function that does this. So it's not really a complaint against Remix, because I think the way this is set up, this is just JavaScript function. So I could easily just create something that does that. Second thing, I like how stuff updates. You've watched my videos about Next.js. I'm tired of all the caching crap. So that's the main reason I'm switching over to trying out Remix, because when I add a thing, when I update a title and I click on somewhere else, I'd expect that to refresh the data, okay? And for some reason, that's like the hardest thing to do in Next.js. So I'm kind of over it. Remix hopefully is more fruitful. I like how everything is a client component and I don't have to put use client at the top of everything. That's another thing I don't like about, the next approach. It's just like, I like how everything here is basically just normal React. It's a client component. You can do whatever you want here. There might be some caveats I'm not sure about, but because it is normal React, I don't have to worry about maybe importing a function that's not going to work or something like that. Now, I am curious. This is in an external model file. I wonder if I actually tried to run this code directly in my action, if that would work. I'm guessing it would. I'm guessing they somehow take the action and like compile that as a separate thing. Maybe. That's what I would hope. I would hate for this to break if I were to just move this. In fact, let me just try that out. I'm going to go ahead and just run this code real quick, and let's see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and import Prisma as well. And I want to make sure this doesn't just like break. Yeah, as I mentioned, if there's a way to actually type this thing, that would be really nice. Because right now, if you do params, there's no typing. Not a fan of that. All right, let's try this again. I'm going to go ahead and edit this. And that did not update. Why did that not update? I did not await on it, maybe? Let's try that. Okay, I guess that was the issue. I didn't await on it. Okay, so yeah, you can do Prisma code directly in here, right? It's a normal function. Nothing special going on. There's no compiler magic, from what I understand. So I like that. Some other things I like how I don't have to create like state variables to keep track of form inputs and stuff like that. Like I don't have to do an on change. I don't have to do a value. It just uses the underlying form data that was sent in, and you can do like a lot of your form edits and updates just using that. I like that. Less code is always a win in my opinion. Error boundary, I'm not really sure what that is. I'm guessing if something that was an exception, you can just have that be rendered out on that view. All right, that's all I really wanted to do in this video. I just want to play with Remix and kind of force myself to learn something new and just get different perspectives outside of Next.js. So far, I mean, it seems pretty good. A lot of people talk really highly of Remix, and I mean, and another YouTuber I stream with once in a while, Coding After 30, does a lot of Remix stuff as well. So I trust his opinion on it. Overall, yeah, if you're looking for a new perspective of building out full stack web applications, go give Remix a try. Hopefully watching my video, if you even made it this far, you learned something new. I'll probably keep using Remix for a while now, just so I can kind of get a better feel for it. Maybe I'll try building out my own full stack application using Remix, and we'll see how it is. Other than that, have a good day and happy coding.